The Whispering Shadows. Evelyn led the group into the abandoned asylum, the heavy door creaking as it revealed the dark corridors ahead. Riley followed closely behind, her flashlight casting eerie shadows on the peeling walls. Morgan, holding his camera, recorded everything, capturing the decaying remnants of the past. Cass hesitated at the entrance, feeling an inexplicable chill that made her shiver. The air was thick with dust and the faint scent of mildew, adding to the unsettling atmosphere. As they ventured deeper, they noticed the temperature dropping, each breath becoming visible in the cold. A faint whisper echoed through the halls, making Evelyn stop and listen intently. "Did you hear that?" Morgan asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Riley shook her head, focusing on the map she had found online, leading them to the hidden wing. They turned a corner and stumbled upon a locked door, untouched by time and decay. Evelyn used a crowbar to pry it open, revealing a staircase leading down into darkness. Cass hesitated again, her heart pounding as she descended, feeling as if something was watching them. The basement was even colder, with strange symbols etched into the walls, glowing faintly in the dim light. "These symbols. They're ancient," Riley murmured, tracing them with her fingers. Morgan felt a cold breeze brush past him, causing him to shiver despite the layers he wore. Evelyn noticed a door slightly ajar at the end of the hallway, leading to an old medical room. Inside, they found rusty equipment and a large, dusty book lying open on a table. Cass couldn't take her eyes off the book, feeling drawn to the words written in a language she didn't understand. The whispers grew louder, now unmistakable, as if they were coming from the walls themselves. "We need to leave," Cass urged, her voice trembling, but Evelyn was too intrigued to turn back. Riley flipped through the book, her eyes widening as she recognized the ancient ritual described within. This ritual. It could explain the hauntings, Riley said, her voice filled with both fear and fascination. Suddenly, Morgan's camera flickered, and the screen showed distorted images of faces twisted in agony. He dropped the camera in shock, and the group watched in horror as it shattered on the cold floor. "What is happening here?" Evelyn whispered, her voice barely audible over the increasing whispers. They decided to leave, but as they retraced their steps, the asylum seemed to shift, the corridors unfamiliar. Panic set in as they realized they were lost, the way out seemingly erased by the malevolent force. Cass began to see visions of the asylum's past, patients screaming, and doctors performing cruel experiments. Evelyn tried to stay calm, but even she could feel the weight of despair pressing down on her. Morgan's hands shook uncontrollably as he felt invisible fingers brushing against his skin. "We need to finish the ritual," Riley insisted, her voice now filled with urgency and desperation. They returned to the medical room, where the book lay open, the pages now glowing with a sinister light. Evelyn took a deep breath and began reading the ritual aloud, her voice steady despite the fear. As the ritual progressed, the whispers turned into agonized screams, the walls vibrating with malevolent energy. Cass collapsed to the ground, clutching her head as the visions overwhelmed her, showing the entity's origin. The entity, a shadowy figure feeding on fear and despair, emerged from the darkness, towering over them. "Keep going," Riley shouted, her voice barely audible over the cacophony of screams and whispers. Morgan held on to Cass, trying to comfort her, but even he could feel the entity's presence suffocating them. Evelyn's voice wavered as the ritual reached its climax, the entity lashing out in fury. The symbols on the walls began to glow brighter, forming a barrier around the group, protecting them from the entity's wrath. Riley joined in, chanting the final words of the ritual, her voice merging with Evelyn's. The entity let out a deafening roar as it was forced back into the shadows, its form dissipating into nothingness. The asylum shook violently, as if it were being torn apart by the force of the ritual. Evelyn collapsed, the ritual taking its toll on her, leaving her drained and weak. The whispers faded, leaving behind an eerie silence, the asylum now still and lifeless. Morgan helped Cass to her feet, both of them visibly shaken but relieved the ordeal was over. Riley looked around, realizing the walls had stopped shifting, the asylum returning to its original state. They found the way out, the door they had entered through now in sight, the fresh air beckoning them. As they stepped outside, the asylum loomed behind them, now just a decaying relic of the past. The group remained silent, each lost in their thoughts, haunted by what they had experienced. Cass felt a lingering unease, knowing the visions would stay with her, a permanent scar on her mind. Morgan swore he could still feel the cold touch of the entity on his skin, a constant reminder of their encounter. Riley clutched the ancient book, unsure whether to keep it or destroy it, fearing its power. Evelyn looked back at the asylum one last time, knowing she would never forget the horrors within. The shadows seemed to whisper their names as they left, a final, chilling reminder of the entity they had faced. The group parted ways, each vowing never to speak of the asylum again, its secrets buried with their silence. But deep in the forest, the asylum stood tall, waiting for the next unwary souls to enter its cursed halls. The entity, though weakened, lingered in the shadows, feeding on the fear left behind by the explorers. And as the wind howled through the trees, the whispers began again, echoing through the night.